We're going to start with a round of introductions. So who you are, what you do, why are you here? So I'll start with myself. My name is Wenling. I'm a PhD student from McMaster University, Canada. I kind of got myself into the power electronics, electrical engineering world by chance. My capstone group wanted to do a project in the area, and I was like a control project. I was like, okay, and that's how I met my supervisor, and I started grad school with him. So that's who I am.
Hi, everybody, all the podcast listeners. I'm Rosemary Alden. I'm a PhD student at the University of Kentucky in the United States. It's actually my home state. I'm a native Kentuckian. I did my bachelor's there in electrical engineering, graduating in May of 2021. So I'm in my fourth year of grad school. I focus on electric grid research, so looking at large-scale grid models to do either DER integration or renewables, looking at most recently the impact of electric vehicles on the grid performance. And yeah, I got started in that field after doing my undergrad degree, and I met my advisor during undergrad and was like very glad to stay at the same university and do my PhD there. And I know that will be talked about a little bit later. But yeah, that's me.
Hello, everyone. Very happy to meet you all here today. I'm Yang Wu, and I'm currently a postdoctoral researcher at Department of Energy, Aalborg University, Denmark. And actually, I received my bachelor degree in 2017 in electrical engineering from the Department of Electrical Engineering in Tsinghua University in China. And after that, I received my PhD degree also in the electrical engineering and in the same department in 2022. And after that, I came to Aalborg, Denmark as a postdoctoral researcher, and I also hold a position as a visiting postdoc for KTH, Royal Institute of Technology in Sweden. And my research interest includes maybe modeling and surveillance analysis of power electronic converters, and also condition monitoring and health management of electrical sets, and especially for converter-connected electrical sets. And I also do some advanced sensing techniques. And yes, and I'm very happy to participate in this PELS event because actually I think I have recently I'm very happy to take on some roles in actually PELS such as women engineering or DI. And recently we also do a small project on AI search, and we are embedding the AI searching tool for the new PELS website. So maybe you can try it out if you like that. Yes.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I did my PhD at Temple University in electrical engineering. I started out with my master's mainly focusing on electric bus charging, so using microgrids to support the infrastructure to charge buses, particularly in congested areas. And then once I started working more on my PhD, I switched over to shipboard microgrids, so allocating the resources on board the ships, considering the cost, the efficiency, and other metrics for when should you use batteries versus generators. I did my undergraduate degree at Wilkes University, which is also in Pennsylvania. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. My undergraduate university wasn't a big research university. It was a very small school, but one of my professors encouraged me to go to do a PhD, which is how I eventually ended up at Temple, which I'll talk more about later, I'm sure.
Very nice. It's really cool to see we have a good range of experiences here. We have a postdoc, we have an industry person, and we have a PhD student. It's also really cool to hear about everyone's experiences that I'll be asking you about later. So the next question I had on the list is, how did you get into power electronics?
So I can give a little bit of an introduction of how my research connects to power electronics. So this little anecdote, actually, I was most recently at the ECE conference in Phoenix, and there's a student there that I've met a couple of times, and he does power electronic setups, and my electric grid study on reactive power support from electric vehicles through bidirectional EV topologies actually made a case for the active research that he was working on. And that was a really nice overlap where I was able to do an electric grid study and show that a new design was needed, and that was something that they were actually working on independently, and we got to have a really nice conversation about that. And that's kind of why I like the society and getting into power electronics and talking about it, is seeing how the overlap and research is possible as it connects with the studies that I do. So I was really excited to make that connection and to talk about it.
It's very cool. And Yang, do you want to talk a little bit about your experiences?
Sure. I think my experience has some similarity with Rosemary because as an undergraduate, I was studying electrical engineering, and at that time, I think a course, my interest for power electronics comes from a course I take, which is the fundamentals of power electronics. You know, before that course, you were studying a lot about mathematics, physics, and circuit theories. They are all very basic and general theory for all the students in all disciplines. So that course seems like to be the first course we take, especially designed for students in power engineering. And at that course, I know the first time that the power converters is acting as such a essential and critical component for the power transfer and power conversion, because it can transform the power in any different frequencies or voltage levels or in other forms, and it is very essential to connecting the renewable sources with the power grid, and also very essential in our electrical devices like computers or iPhones. And so I was thinking, wow, that is very cool. So and at that course, we take some opportunities to do experiments and also visiting some laboratories. And we can have some hands-on experience on the real power converters with different topologies, and that is very impressive. And also, when we go to the laboratory, we can see the senior researchers are doing some cool things. They are doing research on maybe at that time it's wireless power transfer and modular multi-level converters and some high efficiency and high frequency converters with wide bandgap devices. And I think, wow, that is very advanced, and that is what I want to do. So when I determined to enter the graduate study, I chose power electronics as my focus, and I also get many experience on industry practices, so that makes me further interested in this subject. So yeah, this is quite my experience.
That's really cool. You hear a lot about a lot of stories about how people pick their field because that's their first concrete exposure to the field, I feel like.
Exactly.
Which is very cool. I
Yeah.
did engineering because of a high school physics product.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I also became interested in engineering first in high school. So when I was in high school, my school required us to take a programming course. So I took that and I liked it, but I felt like I wanted a little bit more than just programming. So then my mom sent me to a summer program at Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. And I did that 2-week summer program, and then I liked electrical engineering the best. So I knew since then that I wanted to be an electrical engineer. And then specifically for power electronics, I became interested in that when I was in during doing my undergrad. I got an internship with a semiconductor company, and they were doing automotive products, which isn't super high power electronics, but it was somewhat power electronics, and I really liked that. So then I had decided I wanted to do a PhD. So that was when I started applying in the field of power electronics based on that. I also took a electric machines course when I was during my undergrad. So I also really enjoyed that. So that also inspired the power electronics in combination with the internship. So that was how I became more interested in power electronics. My research during my PhD did involve some power electronics. Since it was microgrids, it was just a little bit more on the control side versus pure power electronics.
That's very cool. Okay, let's see what I have next. So the next question is actually about why did you want to do a PhD specifically? What about research that interests you? Was there a specific moment or a specific thing that inspired you to do it, or you just got into it?
Sure, Wenlin. Thanks. So as part of my undergraduate program, I had the really extraordinary opportunity to start undergrad research as a way to work part-time on top of classes. Is really how it got started. Was I had the opportunity to try that out with my research advisor, Dr. Dan Emanuel, at the University of Kentucky in the Power and Energy Institute. And he gave me a project that was starting off with some electric load forecasting with machine learning, and I had a really good experience with that. I was part of an NSF REU in collaboration with the Marquette University, and so I got to start off with research really early during my undergraduate program. So I got to see really the development of how that could look for me in the future, because I got to know current graduate students while I was an undergrad. And then I got to talk to my advisor for a couple of years before I got to make that decision about what a PhD could gain me as I went through my career, and how it would allow me to stay close to technical knowledge development and have future-looking career opportunities and really become a technical expert or something, or have the credentials to then pursue a technical expert role, which I really found appealing. I found that to be a really good pitch for grad school, and naturally I'm in my fourth year now, and it's been really good. I've got to extend my studies in all those areas. So that's really what pulled me in to do a PhD. And in terms of why pursuing that instead of industry, I think for me it's a precursor to what I might be able to do in industry. And a lot of the research projects that my lab, Spark Lab, UK has had the opportunity to do are industry funded and connected. So I think it's a general, like a little bit of a misconception that if you do a PhD that you can't, or it's a choice against industry, where it could just be a different type of a way of interacting with industry and having really both an academia side and an industrial side of how you want to apply that and what you could do with the degree afterwards.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Is it fair to say that you did a PhD just as an extension of your education in order to do what you want to do after?
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's something my advisor really talked a lot about, how, as times are changing and companies are changing, if you want to be in a higher up position where you have influence in a company, or you want to stay doing technical work, having a PhD is becoming a lot more common. And kind of, that education creep, as people used to do. It was more extraordinary to get a master's, and now it's kind of along the lines the same with the PhD and the type of opportunities that you would do.
Yeah.
I also was fortunate, I know we'll talk about fellowships next. I was fortunate in the fellowship that I got that really made that very possible and also desirable for me to do. So
Nice. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we're talking about fellowships next, but before we get to
Okay.
that, yeah,
Of
why
course.
did you want to do a PhD? I think none of us did a master's, right? We all went straight into
No.
PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, I directly took PhD.
yeah,
Yes, so actually, for me, I think when I made that decision, I just think that pursuing a PhD degree means a lot of free time for me to schedule on my own. Because when I was doing research as undergraduate, I take a student research training in China University, and I was doing research on energy harvesting from the transmission lines. And we can do cool things, and I think that we do the modeling, we proposing the ideas, and also make the validations. So I think we can do a lot of things, and we are not fixed in a specific field actually. So when I determined to pursue the PhD, I think maybe I'm that kind of person. If I have the idea, I can stay up late and working on the ideas and testing them. But if I don't have any ideas, maybe I will just relax a little bit, read some papers, and maybe communicate and others. So I think that is a quite cool lifestyle for me. So I determined to enter the PhD. But this is a very, very, very naive idea. But after that, after my PhD, I think I have learned a lot and received more than I expected, because I think as a PhD student, I had the opportunity to get an entire view of the life in academic field. It's like I know how to write and revising papers, and how to drafting proposals, how to apply and manage a project. And also I have the opportunity to communicate to other researchers, take some conferences, and make some very good friends. So I think I have learned a lot from this journey. And I'm also sure that for people who choose to enter the industry, they also have very richful experience, and they will be faced with many challenges and have very good outcomes. So I think it is more like a personal choice for if you determine to do PhD or industry.
yeah, definitely. I really like your energy. I like how I hear from a lot of researchers how much they love their research and they can keep talking about it. I really love that. Kaylin, why did you want to do a PhD?
So I decided to do a PhD from the encouragement of one of my undergraduate professors at Wilkes University, like I mentioned. So he actually began encouraging me because he was my physics professor in Physics 1, and I actually did bad on one of my exams. So I went in and I talked to him, and then I was like, what can I do to improve next time? So he gave me a very long list of physics problems to practice on. I did every single one. And then I went in and then I did better on the next exam, but I still wasn't happy. So then I went and talked to him again. I showed him all the problems that I did. He told me that I was really dedicated to have done like all of those problems that he gave me. So then he said, you should do a PhD. At the time, I just wanted to get through my physics class, so I wasn't thinking about doing a PhD. But then after I finished, and I did do well in the class in the end. After I finished, then he had continued to encourage me to pursue research, so I did research with him. So my undergraduate didn't have PhDs. It's only like an undergraduate and master's school. But they really encourage undergraduates to do research, which was great, I think, for my development to end up doing a PhD. So I did research with him. I was also a TA for physics and electrical engineering courses. After I got that internship that I mentioned, I actually was considering just staying there because they would have like paid for my master's degree. But in the end, I ended up deciding to do a PhD, and then I did go straight to the PhD program. I just got my master's on the way to getting my PhD.
So the next question is on awards, fellowships, and grants. I think all three of you guys have won something good in the past. And can you tell us a little bit about what you applied for and received? Is there anything you did not get? And yeah, so I'm asking for your roadmap to where you are today, and asking you to brag about yourself. So please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, so I'll go first, speaking with the order we had. So I am a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellow and in electrical engineering. So that was a national distinction for me that I applied for during my undergraduate senior year and was fortunate to receive the funding through that program. It's been a really big factor in my graduate life. Having that fellowship has given me more time to focus on the research and also take on mentoring roles. I have 5 undergrad students that do research at the lab that I spend time meeting with and talking to, like I had when I went through, and I think that would have been a lot more difficult to do if I didn't have the fellowship funding that I did have. So I'm very, very grateful for that opportunity and the support of my advisor that really made that application possible for me. That was a process of learning how to write a grant application, and having someone sit down and go through that process with me was really crucial for my success in that application. So I'm really thankful to him, to my advisor. And then the what awards that I did not get, you make up all these plans for yourself as you look at the college transition. And when I was younger in high school, I was looking at a bunch of different schools and places I could go that were fun and exciting. And I applied to some scholarships to colleges out of state. And I think facing the reality of how difficult it is to get enough scholarship money to go to a college in a different state in the US, was really my learning process through that, is that it's good to be grateful for what you can get, and that is really difficult, and to not take any of those rejections personally at all, because it's very difficult to get those scholarships to really start your undergrad career and make those college transitions and graduate fellowships and all that. So yeah, that was something I looked at universities out of state and had to take a hard look financially and be like, okay, even if I got half of the ones I applied for at this school, it's not enough to cover my tuition and room and board. So I think that's a lot of things that's a really hard reality a lot of students have to face when they're looking at making college decisions, much less than, okay, where do you go after that? Because if you take student loans, it's much harder to say, oh, I'll go get a PhD because you have that interest accruing. So yeah, I wanted to mention that. And then another grant award, I was very fortunate to get the Women in Engineering, like the PELS Women in Engineering student travel grant that recently to this ECCE conference in the past. So I have benefited from that. So thank you very much to PELS and WIE for that. And so the last thing, the roadmap, really how that really benefited for me in a quick summary was having the fellowship really gave me the time to focus on research, and something that I would recommend to any young undergraduate students who are listening to this podcast or would listen to it, if you're doing undergraduate research, talk to your mentors as soon as you can about what fellowship applications are available to you. Because if you have found the right mentor for you, they'll want you to have those opportunities and they'll want to spend the time with you to help you get that grant money to then be able to do better research with them or another group. So definitely bring that conversation up early and don't count yourself out as you look through it.
That is very good advice. Something I wish I had when I was an undergrad. So thank you, Rosemary, for that. I also wanted to ask, is the NSF the first major award or scholarship you applied for? Did you do anything before it?
Yes, so I actually applied to the Benjamin A. Gilman through this Department of Security through the that program for an education abroad opportunity in my undergrad. So the summer after my freshman year, I wanted to do an education abroad on renewable energy. So I applied to that national scholarship and was very fortunate to get that to support my travels. I went to Navarra, Spain, and Pamplona to take some renewable energy courses. Got to see wind turbines and marine energy transfer devices with a turbine at the bottom that goes like this and like all that stuff, and how they had done a really great job of incorporating renewable energy into their communities with solar panels. And this was back in 2018, so that was really advanced to see then. So I had really great support through that, and I had to get for that, in addition to the NSF, recommendation letters. So that's another thing that I would say to our listeners is don't be scared to talk to the professors, like Caitlin was saying, when you need help, because they're probably going to lift you up more than you really realize. Like they're going to give you more than you think. So don't be scared to talk to them, because the precursor to a lot of those national grants and fellowships is having a mentor who will be able to write about you and be able to, and the only reason they're able to do that is if you are brave enough to talk to them and share what you have to contribute.
That's nice. Jan, do you want to talk a little bit about how you got to where you are? I think you are holding the Marie Curie postdoc fellowship right now.
Yes. I am currently an MSc postdoctoral researcher. It's a Marie Sklodowska-Curie action of the European Commission, which supports the scholars inside Europe. And actually, this funding is a large amount to me, so it covers like my salaries, my traveling expenses, publication expenses, and also the communication and dissemination money I need. And I received this funding because my proposal on physics-informed data-driven analysis of wind power hubs, because it is timely placed, because the European nations are building a wind farm, offshore wind farm in the North Sea. So I think that's maybe the reason why I get this funding. And also my supervisor for my postdoc is very supportive for me, and he like polished the proposal draft for me, and very thankful for his effort. And also, I think one of the greatest things is that this fellowship places me as an independent researcher in Iowa University, because this enables me to do some innovative and more maybe high risk, high gain research. Yes, so I'm very lucky to get this opportunity. And actually, this is my first attempt for applying for a grant, and absolutely I should try more afterwards as a postdoc. Yes, so. And for my, I also received the travel grant from the PELS Women Engineering Committee, also in this year's ECCE. So thanks to the PELS committee. Thank you very much. And also for my roadmap to today, I think I can like summarize it from two aspects. Firstly, from the research perspective, I think when I was doing my PhD, I was focusing on the modeling and reliability of electrical sets, especially for converter connected electrical sets. And I have done a lot of research on monitoring technologies using leakage current sensors and also some fault location in distribution systems. But also I have done a lot of work. I find that there is still something lacking. It is the accurate modeling and analysis for power converters, because we need to know how the behavior of power converters becomes when it is connected into the grid with large integration of converters. So that's the reason why I came to Iowa University, because this university has very good experiment environment on power electronics. So, but it is a little challenging for me because it's like you transfer to a new nation and a new country and also a new university, but results come out to be good. So I finished this part of research and now I can have a comprehensive view of the entire field on the reliability and stability of electronic based power systems. So I think for the research, maybe sometimes we have to take some challenge and we have to know what we need to do and we have to do that. And the other perspective is like from the service, because as an undergraduate and PhD student, I have received a lot of support from the HVE Power Electronics societies, like the travel grants and the opportunities to attend conferences with a very low registration fee. So, and when I become a postdoc, now I want to do more service to do contributions to our community as well. So I'm participating in many committees and or some groups to make something to do something for our community, and also serve as I think I'm a responsible reviewer or some other roles in our society. So I think from these two perspectives, we can build our career and maybe we receive help from others as undergraduate or a PhD student, and then we try to help others in our community to make the sustainability of our society become a reality in the future. Yes.
That's pretty cool. You said the Marie Curie was the first grant you applied for. Did you apply for like any fellowships, awards before? I had a quick look at everyone's resume. I see a lot on yours.
You mean awards? Yeah, awards,
Yeah.
but I think all the
You have
awards
to.
it's not like a founding like a Marie Curie because it can
Yeah, that's
support of your salary or some other things. But
Mm.
maybe I think we should set the opportunity for other awards. There are many awards from PELS and for other like organizations or institutions. They can compensate a lot for your traveling expenses or some other things. Yes.
Nice. I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna ask that to everyone later. So, Caitlin, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences first?
Sure. So I applied for 2 fellowships during my second year of my PhD. I applied to the National Science Foundation GRFP, and I applied to the Department of Defense Smart Scholarship. So I did not receive the NSF GRFP, but I did receive the Department of Defense Smart Scholarship. So the Smart Scholarship is a scholarship for service program where when you complete your PhD, you then you get paired with a sponsoring facility, they call it. And you get paired with them, and then you work for them after you complete your PhD as a civilian employee for the number of years that they funded you for. So I got paired with the Naval Surface Warfare Center Philadelphia Division. And that program, I really enjoyed the program because they also pair you with that sponsoring facility. They also pair you with mentors. And I feel like even throughout this whole journey, which I'm sure you've all heard when I was talking about it, I feel like mentors have played a really integral role to getting to this point. So I really liked that about that program. I also had received the Power Electronics Student Travel Grant, which I used which was through the IEEE Transportation Electrification Conference, where I presented all my conference papers that I got during my PhD. And I really think that enabled me to get like really good feedback on my research and make a lot of connections, including Rosemary and Wenlin, who I met both of you at ITech, and continue to keep in touch with you. So I thought all of these grants and opportunities, I think even Rosemary made a really good point that having the knowledge that they're available and to apply for them is really, really helpful to encouraging at every level, undergraduate, graduate, and beyond.
Yeah. I feel like a common thing everyone talks about is how important a mentor is when you're early in your career, how you get encouraged from someone, how someone encourages you to apply for something and then you get it and then you just keep going from there. So that's really cool to know. And I think useful for a lot of I don't know, undergrad students or students earlier in their career. Something I wanted to ask all of you guys is I know all 3 of you have received a major fellowship, but what was your first experience applying for any sort of award fellowship, be it like within the school-wise award or anything? What was the first experience? Was it for someone that's fresh in their undergrad?
Sure. Something I can talk about is like I think the first application that I ever put together was actually the Governor Scholars Program in high school. It's a state-run program that the states have across the U.S. for students with leadership capabilities to spend 5 weeks after their junior year of high school living on a college campus. So that was the first experience I had with doing any kind of application. And I think starting in high school really helped me learn how to present myself. And then for college, in undergrad, I applied for the EON scholarship. It's part of the Power and Energy Institute of Kentucky. So that one's focusing on students interested in power systems. I know this is PELS, but I'll be brave and say I did that. So I did the EON and the IEEE Power and Energy Society Plus scholarship in undergrad. So those applications, you have to write essays, you have to write down what you've done for your work experience, what you've done for your extracurriculars. So I think if you're a young undergraduate student starting out, it's important for you to get involved in more than just your classes. So if you do want to do a scholarship grant, you'll not only have something to write down, but you'll have your education and your view enriched by being in those activities and taking on those roles. So that's something that was really important in both of those scholarship applications in college, was that I had been doing undergraduate research. I had taken a co-op. I had been part of SWE. I had started doing things to start some IEEE PS student branch at my university, that type of thing. The other other early thing I had in college that I wanted to mention. So at the University of Kentucky, I'm part of the Stanley and Karen Pigman College of Engineering. And so Stanley and Karen Pigman are two benefactors to the College of Engineering, and they give a lot of money to students from rural part of Kentucky to come to the school, and that's a really important opportunity for a lot of students that go to UK, and they've given a lot of money to my research lab as well to help support research, and some of my travels and stuff I've done in graduate school has been supported by them as well. So I wanted to mention this because I think there's more than just merit scholarships at Reach. And I think to look for those opportunities of people who are giving back to students who want to be involved, whether that's the PES student travel or kind benefactors in your area, but to be on the lookout and to talk to the people that you have around you that are older than you, and see what they were able to get in their application process. So
Thank you. I think you make a really good point about how there's not only merit scholarships but also a lot of other opportunities. A lot of times when for fresh students that are starting out, they don't realize it, but there are a lot of opportunities and you just have to look for them. You don't get the scholarship you don't apply for.
Very interesting experience. Like when I didn't start to apply for fundings when I was very young, because my publications just come out at the last years of my PhD. So and last year I applied for a very important or very prestigious scholarship in our university, which is a national scholarship. So it is very competitive. And at first I have hesitated, and I don't know if I should apply, but I think I should give that a try. But so that is very competitive. So I just hand in the materials of all my publications, my CV and my projects and all the other things, and then they review it. And luckily, I get into the interview section. But finally, we do not. I didn't get the scholarship, so I got a second cut. But that is not the point. It's like we have to have an interview by many professors in the department to receive this scholarship, and you have to make a slide, present it in 3 minutes to show what you have done and what you are going to do. So finally they didn't select me, but I think the lesson I learned from this is that first you should always try, because even though you maybe you didn't get that, you have the chance to practice yourself and know what you have done and what you are going to do. So you have a chance to summarize all the research you have done. That is very beneficial, and it also prepare me for the future, like job interviews or some other things. And the second is do not be afraid of failure. I think you will always come across some difficulties in your career development, but just let it go behind. Yes. So that's my experience for my first application. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jan. Caitlin, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you started?
Sure. So I don't think I applied for any like separate funding during my undergraduate. I did receive the presidential scholarship from Wilkes University, but I believe that was just based on my general application when I applied to the university. Um, but I do think like when I was applying for the NSF GRFP and the Smart Scholarship, like for both of them, I had to write the personal statement and the research statement, like Yang mentioned. And I think that was really helpful because I continued to use that even like for each of them. So I think that's one thing that applying for these that you shouldn't be afraid of failure, like Yang also mentioned. Because I think that even just developing those that like learning how to write about yourself, both for the personal statement and for your research is really, really helpful that you'll continue to use that even for other things that you write about, whether it's going to a conference, if you need a bio for that. I think that that's really, really helpful and a great skill to have. And I do think it's also helpful for interviews or just even giving someone an elevator pitch about yourself when you just meet someone at a conference. So I think that's a really good skill that applying for those is also helpful with.
If I
Yeah, I
could, if I
agree.
could add to that, what Caitlin
Oh
just
yeah.
said, I thought that was a really great point because a lot of the times, whenever I would do a fellowship application, even before I heard back on the results, I felt like a sense of satisfaction that I had evaluated kind of what I wanted out of the fellowship and where I wanted to go and how much I had done and who had supported me. And so even if you don't get the fellowship, having that kind of self-reflection, I think was really important to like developing and going forward. So um, even to do it for that is worthy. So
Yeah, definitely. I think all three of you guys have mentioned it. Applying for scholarships or applying for anything, it's not only to get the final thing, but also the application itself helps you to think about where you are, where you want to be, and it helps to, for you to plan your career, if you will. And yeah, and then rejections are just part of the process. Rejections are normal. You don't get everything you apply for. And whatever you put together, you can use them in the future for something. So
I also want to, sorry. I also
yeah,
want to
go
say
ahead.
point of failure. I ended up, I feel like in a way, I ended up doing a PhD because I didn't do well on a physics exam. So I think also the point of, I think the point of not being afraid of failure is also helpful for that. It may give you another opportunity that you didn't even realize.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I want to add a follow-up question to that. So how do you feel about rejections nowadays if you apply for something? How do you deal with it? Do you still like feel bad about it, or like you're just like it's part of it, whatever? I'll just keep applying for the next one.
I mean, I think there's always going to be that temporary first wave of emotion when you get that back because when you do an application, you kind of start to dream a little bit about what it would be like to live a life that would have that. And then I think it's gotten easier to be like, okay, well, I can still have that dream. Maybe not this way, but I can still have components of it or to reshift. But yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of sorrow if you don't get something that you wanted. But I think part of going through college and the PhD program is getting used to the fact that like it doesn't have to be your first plan. And sometimes making a first plan or a second or a third or a fourth makes you better equipped to make that fifth plan that will work out. And being comfortable with like, okay, how can I move forward? Like I didn't get that bar, but how can I adjust what I had looked forward to? So it feels like a failure at first, but then after you adjust what your standard was, it's just something that you didn't do. And then you get to do the next thing and you find a way to make it a positive moment for you moving forward.
How about you, Yang? How do you feel about rejections nowadays?
At the instant objection, that is very painful. So, but I have several stages. At the first stage, I'm very painful and I'm very sad, and that may last for 1 day or to a week, depending on what I have lost. The funding or the paper is rejected or something. And after that, I will like let myself do some research. I think that will keep you concentrated and you can forget it a little bit. And maybe after some longer time, several weeks, you can look back and to get some suggestions or comments on what you have what you haven't done well, and afterwards you can move on. And I think you will always get the results if you do good research and keep going. Yes, so don't be afraid of the failures. Yeah.
So I think So I think with the grants, I think it gets easier as for the failure as you get more. I think that comes with the experience of applying for each of them. And I think that the other thing is too with like some of the feedback you receive from the reviewers, I think that they are helpful with like the constructive criticism. So I do try to pull the constructive criticism from there where I can. But I do think that as I have continued to apply for them, because I remember when, even in the beginning when I didn't get the NSF GRFP, I was really upset, and I feel like I get less upset now. So I think that is one thing that's encouraging, is that as you continue to apply for all of these grants, that I do think it gets easier as time goes on.
Mm, for sure.
Can I add
I
one
feel
more
like
thing on this topic? I know I talked for a
yeah.
while, but if I could add one more thing. I think another thing to remember with this is how you need to take the failure as sometimes you're trying to do something really hard. Like sometimes the task is just really difficult and you've been really ambitious, and it's something where with the NFGRP there were only 60 in electrical engineering the year that I won, and it's really, I think, down to luck who gets picked in that top 60, and just how difficult the tasks that you're like setting out for yourself are, and that it's okay then to get as well on top of, the normal. It's okay to fail at something, but to remember sometimes when you try something really difficult, it's to be expected that you're not always going to succeed because the tasks themselves are really hard, especially with research. If you're inventing something new, sometimes it's really hard to get that journal, that conference paper, that thing to write about. So to be forgiving with yourself as you're going through that process, and remembering that it's not something that you should just expect to go well immediately.
Do you see yourself going in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see your career going? And what suggestions do you have for someone that want to follow your path?
Okay, so I think I'm in the fourth year of my PhD program, wrapping up, looking towards organizing my dissertation, getting a collection of the papers I've written before, trying to see how to fit that in. So I'm really at the crux of that decision, I guess, right now. So I currently have multiple visions for how I could go, and so I'm trying to weed out those things, of which way I want to take it. Kind of like if anyone's watched the Loki series or has the metaverse concept in their mind, like that's kind of how I feel right now. Is because there is a version of me that could say, well, I've done a lot of research I could apply to, national labs. I had a part-time internship at a national lab. I could apply to NRO and do that. Or, oh, during my program, I went abroad and I worked with University of Oxford. I could apply to, a postdoc position somewhere over abroad. Or, oh, I could stay and try and go to a company doing software development for a utility. And, I could keep going. And I think that's part of the PhD program. As you get into it, is you start to see all the different places where you could get plugged in. And I think that's, I guess I haven't gotten to that stage yet of really picking what path is right for me. And I think that's okay too. And I know like I might pick a path and then maybe I'll change it. So I think part of the PhD program for me was having that flexibility to keep developing, and really having I guess I spent the time to build the resume that could take me in many different places depending on what I wanted, whether that's, a national lab position or postdoc or directly into R&D at a large energy company or doing software development. I don't know yet. And I think that's part of the fun of the PhD is getting to go through that evaluation. So I guess check in with me in 6 months on LinkedIn where where I end up with that. But I really hope to have a role in which I can take the skills that I've learned and be an active learner in my job and actively apply them to kind of either spur some sort of progress or innovation or discussion. Like I really enjoy the kind of conversation around the technical work that's possible when you have PhDs collaborating with each other. So I think that's really what I look forward to in my role, beyond just the technical stuff. Like I want to do some development for grid interface, impact of electric vehicles, looking at large scale studies of distribution systems, maybe some hardware in the loop. I don't know. But beyond that, I want to be having these types of conversations like we're having today, where we get to talk not only about like where we want to go, but the technical stuff.
Mm. Yeah, it's very interesting having you here at this stage because we keep people talk about their 5 year, 10 year plans, but then it's also okay to not have a concrete plan at some point. You don't always know where life is going. And like I doubt anyone would precisely follow their 5-10 year plan anyways. So it's really good to have you here and to show that you don't always have to have a plan. Work your way to something and then you develop a plan from there and you maybe deviating from where you originally think you're going, but you're still going, in your path. So that's good to know, and thank you, Rosemary, for sharing that. Young, I'm still going to ask everyone, just, where do you see yourself going in the future in the next couple years?
Yeah, because currently I'm a postdoc researcher. It's like a tricky point because you need to transform your identity and you cannot do postdoc for all the times. So I'm thinking about becoming a faculty member in the next 5 years, but I think it's very challenging, and maybe I can begin to search for the open positions next year. For me, so I have think about this problem a little bit because if I want to become a faculty member, maybe I need to advance myself in both research, teaching, and service. And for the research, I think maybe I will follow based on my previous research, I will follow the current research directions. Maybe I will work still on polytronic-based power systems. It's like analyze the interaction between multiple converters in a system with a large scale of converter integration. And also maybe using some data-driven method to address the challenges now in the industry. And so I was also thinking maybe I will devote myself more to industry collaborations or some grant applications. So gradually transforming my identity to a developed researcher. And also, I think maybe I should pay more attention to teaching and supervising. You cannot always do the things by yourself. You have to encourage young students, young scholars. And so maybe I can learn a lot. I can also learn a lot by communicating and getting feedback from them. And also maybe I think I will communicate more with all the researchers around the world to know what we really need in our field to make really impactful things. So I don't have a very concrete plan. I don't know where I will be in 5 years, but I think I will just do things in this direction and to see if it will work out. If not, maybe I will change my plan. Yes.
Yeah. And do you have any suggestions for students wanting to follow your path, wanting to go into academia?
Yeah, I think I have like several suggestions. Maybe first is always do the research which is related to the industry needs, because if you want to generate some impactful publications, you have to combine your research with what the industry really need and what the challenge they really face with. Yes, so the first suggestion, and the second, maybe I think we should always do innovative things and do not do some incremental works. But I think that depends on you have to communicate more with all the researchers around the world to know what the real challenge is. So yes, I think that's my suggestions.
Thank you. Kaylin, do you have a plan?
So I think that so when I first decided I wanted to do a PhD, I wanted to do a PhD because I wanted to work in industry first and then be a professor eventually. And the reason for that was because at my undergrad, like I mentioned, it wasn't a big research university, but my favorite professors were all the ones that had worked in industry first and then became a professor, which is actually also what my PhD advisor, Dr. Liang Du, did. He worked in industry first and then was my PhD advisor after. So I knew that was my plan. So my plan was always to go into industry right after my PhD. But I think the other thing with the PhD is that you do become a technical expert in like the field that you're studying during your PhD. But I also think that it gives you a lot of skills to learn how to learn. And I think that that's really helpful. So I plan to continue to like hone in on those skills and like expand my technical expertise a little bit, because the industry, like everything changes so quickly. Because even like Yang mentioned in the beginning, like artificial intelligence, when I was doing my PhD, some researchers were doing artificial intelligence, machine learning, but it wasn't as big. But now, even within just the last year, it's become a major thing. So I feel like that's something, that may be something that I expand my expertise into, since I didn't work on that at all during my PhD. So I think that's one thing that my plan is within the next 5 to 10 years, is to continue being flexible with expanding my expertise, trying to learn as much as I can during this early stage in my career to set the foundation for the future. Because I do think my PhD gave me a really, really good foundation for where I'm at right now. But I hope that my industry experience will also continue to build that foundation further, so that, and I don't think, I don't have a plan exactly of when I will switch to being a professor, but I hope that eventually I will. I don't know if that's in my 5 to 10 year plan. It's probably a bit farther down the road for that, but that's eventually my plan, is to transition from industry to being a professor.
Yeah, so with that, I want to thank everyone for participating in this. Uh, we touched a little bit about, scholarships, awards, and why it's important to apply for them and what they do to you, even if you don't get the specific one you apply for. And then we talked a little bit about career plans, and it's, we don't always have a plan, but that's okay.
Yeah, and a
Uh,
thank you to PELS again
oh
for the
yeah, and
opportunity.
thank you for PELS for the opportunity